If you're speaking, no one can hear you.
You can't hear me, Nate? Can you hear me?
Now people can hear you.
Okay. Welcome.
Now no one can hear you.
What? This is take over the. This is where you would take over the hosting duties, Nate. This is where you would take over the hosting duties, as that happens on the fly.
Well, it sounds like you should have prepared.
You got to
your
jump in there
microphone
and
a little
take
better.
over. Yeah, take over.
I didn't
And
know
it's
if the
working.
technical difficulties were on my end or for everybody.
Oh, that was throwing it off. That's true. That's true. That's true. Welcome everyone to episode number 24 of DirectXbox. See, I was answering questions in the chat. I was all over the place. I was doing a lot just now, and it was just a lot of
Yeah, it
moving
was
around,
broadcast
not a lot of
to
sound.
a audience of one, that being yourself.
Well, thank you, Tyler. Welcome everyone to DirectXbox. That's like when you're seeing, the people you're watching like a reality show, whatever, they're on the stage and it's like zooming in. You can't hear them, right? Like the talk shows, you can't hear what they're saying when they're going to commercial or coming back from commercial. You just see them mouthing back and forth, pretending to talk about something. That was the setup. That's all it was.
You probably should have had some music or something playing so that people
You
thought
started
it
to
was
play
an
music.
intro.
It seemed like you were covering. I thought you had it covered.
I put the music on to see if my headphones were working, and I heard the music, and that's when I stopped. I was like, okay, it's not an issue on my end. It has to be him.
Okay. See, we could have been like just mouthing while the stuff's coming up, right?
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe.
See, you got a nice play in there. I hear you uploaded that here. What else? Oh yeah, you uploaded a bunch. No, I guess just that one, huh?
Well, we usually use that on Game and Talk as the outro.
Oh, is that the outro? he really doesn't. He doesn't copyright strike that, huh?
No, because Joe Hendry is the man, and if you believe in him, he will appear. So if everyone watching right now believes in Joe Hendry, he might appear on this show one day.
Is he an Xbox fan?
I don't know, but I know he used a Dreamcast in a match once.
Oh, the Xbox is like the successor to the Dreamcast.
Yeah, so we have a chance of getting Joe Hendry one day. But we have to believe.
Okay. Maybe we can make it work. We'll see. Well, tonight we have Starfield Shattered Space to go over, which it hasn't gone over well online. Got Ubisoft with it seems like they're in a lot of trouble, more trouble than people were expecting, I guess, at this point. Microsoft looking for feedback from developers, more games going to Xbox Game Pass Standard. Very brief overview of Tokyo Game Show because that feels like it was forever ago now as the news cycle moves quickly. And it might not be over for Tony Hawk Pro Skater Series. That, of course, technically resides at Microsoft now. And then we even have Microsoft looking ahead to a certain 25th anniversary for a game as well as hardware. That, and I also pulled some comments from the last episode that was a lot of burying me for not really drinking tea correctly or making tea, even though I don't drink tea. So I pulled some of those too. Okay. Let me see who we got here in the chat. We got Medallion, of course. Medallion. Shout out to Medallion. Right there. Saying Joe Hendry for head of Xbox. I feel like people would buy an Xbox if he was the head of Xbox. Nate would buy another one.
Joe Hendry, because you love him in London and Paris and Tokyo.
Thank you. I just want to give a shout out, of course, to the good folks over on the Spawncast Network. You too can be part of what we're going to be introducing here going forward, especially in the next episode of a mailbag, where you could write into different shows, have your questions shown on screen, and we'll kind of discuss them and everything. But does support this show as well as any of the others, which we got done actually recording Spawncast. That'll go up tomorrow. We do a bunch of mailbag stuff there too. So shout out to all the supporters there. You can check us out. The first link above in the description, spawncastnetwork.com or patreon.com/spawncast. Nate, did you get a chance to play Shattered Space?
Yes, I've played about 2 hours of it. It's been a very busy week, so I haven't had as much time to sit down with the game and dedicate my time to it as much as I would have liked.
I played like 3 or so hours of it. I was even playing it just now before we went on air here. And I first of all, were you surprised at the reception online for this thing? It is currently sitting at a 57, and it's mostly negative on Steam right now.
Yeah, I think the review scores did come as a surprise to me. I thought the game would have, or the expansion would have reviewed better than a 57. And based on my first few hours of play, I'm not in agreement with those scores, but I do have to see how the expansion content really plays out. But some of the reviews that stood out to me is that they expected more from this expansion than I think the expansion ever promised to be. I saw some comparing it to Phantom City for Cyberpunk 2077, and others comparing it to larger expansions from games like Destiny 2 and such. So I wonder if there was just a bit of a disconnect in terms of what we were going to get content-wise and from what reviewers were expecting, and that is why we're getting such huge discrepancies in the review scores.
I would say, okay, so I feel like if this expansion were $10, I don't think it would have probably been this kind of a pushback on it. It is, I mean, it's $30. This isn't like a cheap expansion, I would say. It's $10 off of $10 cheaper than Shadow of the Erdtree. That was quite the expansion.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing, is that when you look at Shadow of the Erdtree, look how long it took to come out from the base game's release. It was several years. This was an expansion that came out within 12 months. So if anyone was going in with the expectations of it being something along the lines of Erdtree, I could see where you would definitely be very disappointed in terms of what the content appears to be delivering. So maybe that is why some of the review scores were coming in so low. But, you know, I have to see the content through to the end and see if I do come away as disappointed as the reviewers clearly did.
Yeah, so about 3 hours in, I think so far the best part has been just the beginning, like the first hour. It's so the way it starts, and they showed this themselves in the trailer. Okay, they did all this, but you basically find a space station in space, distress signal. You find it, and it's like abandoned, and you're going through it. And you're trying to figure out what happened there, but it's presented as kind of like let's say a horror game, kind of like more of a creepy vibe to it. And it's like, it's in zero gravity. So you go in there, you're kind of floating around a bit, trying to figure all this stuff out. And that part has been probably the best so far. Eventually you do move on, as they did tell us, it will all take place on one planet. So you eventually get there. And, you know, as I'm spending time on this planet, it just hasn't been that interesting. I mean, they're setting up some sort of story, and I'm following along with it, but it's not as compelling as I feel like I was hoping. And maybe that's also because in the base game for Starfield, the part that I did enjoy there was actually just traversing between planets and not spending like overwhelming amounts of time on any one of them. So it kind of felt like I was changing environments pretty quickly and there was more freedom. This is trying to be just one planet. We're going to try to curate this as much as possible and set up something that's a bit more, I guess, streamlined or narrative driven. And I haven't felt that yet. Like, it doesn't feel like the trade-off of being pretty much just on this one planet is providing me with just a much more polished, confined experience that I thought that I would see.
Yeah, a lot of the reviews, the complaints were that the narrative for them wasn't that strong, or that the content itself really wasn't that different from what you're getting from the main game of Starfield. And I would say the Oracle introductory mission seemed to be a very strong introduction. It had a good atmosphere, had a good vibe. It did have that kind of creepy, uneasy tension in terms of atmosphere to it. And I liked that Oracle mission.
Mhm.
But the
Yeah.
hour following that, it's definitely been slower. I can see where the story is trying to establish itself, but it just hasn't caught my interest that much right now. I'm hoping that it develops further and it does get me invested. But so far, it does feel as though it's just more of Starfield. And if you're not a fan of Starfield, this expansion isn't going to bring you back and make you a fan of it. This is really for, I can't even say the fans of Starfield, because right now, I'm still waiting for, some unique item, something new and fresh that the base game did not have. And I
Right.
just haven't experienced that yet. So, in that sense, I can see where this expansion has been disappointing to people, especially when you did see all the trailers and footage leading up to this release, where they did position it as though it was going to have a Dead Space vibe to it. And the Oracle did have that vibe, but it hasn't had that vibe since. So, in a sense, yes, I can say I've been disappointed that it isn't giving me that horror tense atmosphere that the trailer and even Bethesda marketing had put out there. It's just very much it's Starfield. And even in the base game of Starfield, when you went on certain starships, you had those uneasy settings where they were vacant, you had dead bodies, the gravity systems were malfunctioning, and you weren't sure what was happening on that particular spacecraft. And maybe that's why the Oracle mission really stood out to me. I was like, okay, this is going to be really cool. But then once you did the gravity jump to the planet, it was kind of oh, this is going to be Starfield standard experience. But I'm hoping it can surprise me in some way. But with the reviews being as negative as they are, maybe I should lower my expectation and just go in and say, hey, it's more Starfield. It's a handcrafted planet with some missions. Just take it for what it is and enjoy the ride. It's not going to be anything too shocking. It's not going to have a masterful revelation and storytelling. It's just going to be competent at what it is, and it's probably going to be forgettable, where I'm going to move on from the game next week, go to Silent Hill 2, and say, this is the horror game I really want to play in October, and I'll never think of Shattered Space again.
Yeah, as I'm looking at this as they drop you off on the planet, I thought, it would have been maybe it would have felt different if the entirety of the expansion wasn't on a planet, but they built out like a big space station, like a Deep Space Nine kind of thing, where it looks way different than any of the ones you've been to before. And they have a story they're telling of how this is some like ancient space station from like millenniums ago or something, and you're going through it, and it all takes place there rather than a planet. Because that you're right, that initial bit of it so far was probably the most intriguing of the whole thing. And they just get you to the planet pretty quick. So that I think would have been an interesting path for them to go instead.
Even when you arrive on the planet, they have the little interrogation sequence of like, who are you? Why are you
Yeah.
here? And I was going to replay it to give different answers to see if the outcome is going to be radically different, because one guy immediately distrusts you. The other guy is willing to give you benefit of the doubt. And I was like, okay, well, let me see if I just say everything wrong. Is he going to try to kill me? Is he going to try to send me back? Are there any stakes at play here? And I haven't done the multiple playthroughs yet.
I'm usually in these games, Nate. Usually I'm a jerk, so I say like the snarky. I always pick the snarky stuff.
Did they shoot you, or were they just like, okay,
No.
come with us because you were sent here?
Yeah. So whatever. Okay, let's go.
That's
I'm like
kinda-
saying the most disrespectful stuff to them.
And they just
whatever.
don't care.
All right. On to the ritual. Okay.
I mean, I think that's the disappointing thing, is that the Oracle sequence was so good. It set such a good tone, and that it didn't follow through when you arrived on the planet is disappointing. And I definitely had high hopes going into this, because all the trailers, all the footage we've seen had looked really, really promising. And they kept touting, oh, it's handcrafted. So it felt as though it was going to be more streamlined, more curated, and a more focused experience. And at the end of the day, it's still feeling as though this is Starfield. It's not to say it's terrible. Again, I have to see it through to the end. But I almost wish the whole, at least at this point, I wish the whole experience was kind of on the Oracle. And it was like Dead Space, where everything is just falling apart around you. You have these weird creatures invading that you're not really sure what's happening. And the fact that the Oracle also kind of leaned heavily into gunplay, and the gunplay is still one of the game's weakest features. I wanted new weapons. I wanted to be introduced to like some crazy new plasma
Oh
beams
yeah.
or equipment or something. And maybe the DLC does introduce that later on. But this is that chance of give us some new ship items, equipment, weapons, all that stuff. So if you want to go back into the main game after completing the expansion, you have new things to toy around with. And we just haven't seen that yet. At least I haven't in my few hours of play.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because one of the unfortunate things is I can't necessarily bury Nate for this because many people don't know. Nate hyped this game up constantly, this expansion up to me. Me and MVG is hyping this thing up. Shattered Space is coming. Shattered Space is coming. The reason I can't bury Nate over is because it technically got evened out by Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 comes out, reviews come out, and it's very positive. So I'm like, okay, Starfield Shattered Space down here. It's like, okay. It's net neutral right now for Nate this week.
MVG says he's enjoying Shattered Space a lot.
He kind of buried it a little bit today.
Okay.
So, I don't know how to spoil the Spawncast, but
he was praising it a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I think he again, the first few hours are probably the strongest for it, to be honest.
See, I'm still at the point where it's enjoyable, which means now I'm just going to go on the roller coaster and it's just straight down.
That's kind of what he was conveying to us, was that it was like he's finished it. He said it didn't even take that long either. So I mean, people are saying they're getting through it if they just want to mainline it 6 or 7 hours or something.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, is that I'm still speaking from the point of, oh, this is pretty enjoyable. It has some flaws, but I'm still having fun with it. And now it just sounds as though it's going to be a spiral straight down into the depths of disappointment.
Well, sounds like you're halfway done, so it won't be too long.
That's really disappointing.
Yeah, you were looking forward to this thing. You were hyping it up. You were excited, and well, hey, you got Silent Hill. That was a nice surprise. So there you go. Bluebird team.
I had faith in Silent Hill 2 from the beginning. Everyone else was Bluebird team. This is gonna suck. And then we saw the initial trailer, and people were like, "Okay, that's not terrible." People were still expressing a lot of disappointment. And then we saw that nice gameplay deep dive, and people were like, "Okay, wait a minute, this actually looks good." And now it's one of the highest rated games of 2024.
You can't brag about that because you hyped up Starfield Shattered Space.
You hyped up Jedi Outcast 2.
Whoa. Jedi Outcast is a good game. Hold on a minute here.
No,
it's a good game. That's a good game. Nate, can we talk about Ubisoft for a minute here?
If we have to discuss their very...
this company
trying.
This company's going through it.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a year for them. It started off so good too with Prince of Persia back in January. It was like, wow, Ubisoft just released one of the best games of the year, and since then it's been nothing but disappointment.
Dude, it's been crazy for Ubisoft. So I looked at, because they're talking about their stock jumping today like 30% because of some of the stuff we're about to go over. But I looked at their chart from 5 years ago, from mid 2021 to now. They've lost almost 80% of the company's value. That's how bad it's gotten for Ubisoft, to the point where I do wonder how that cash flow situation is looking when they have 19,000 employees currently. That's probably one of the biggest pain points for them right now, is even covering a lot of their expenses when it comes to just payroll and stuff. But they are apparently, according to Bloomberg right now, one of their options that they're weighing is to indeed do a buyout and go private. But in order to do that, they would need the help of Tencent. So basically, Ubisoft, who worked really hard, if you remember, to avoid the takeover from Vivendi, is now basically going to be selling out to Tencent. And I was curious, Nate, what your thought on this, because Microsoft is involved in this in, I think, 2 different ways. One is that they Tencent would technically then have the rights for streaming Activision games, because that was something that Microsoft had spin off to Ubisoft. And the other thing is kind of Microsoft, while they went for Activision Blizzard, they got Activision Blizzard. they have to be looking at Ubisoft like right now, like, oh, we probably could have saved a lot of money and got Ubisoft instead. I'm not saying they're anywhere near Activision Blizzard, but dude, I mean, their market cap is under $2 billion now, Ubisoft, for how far they've fallen.
Yeah. I mean, Microsoft is still in the acquisition game. They're still looking at companies for potential acquisitions. I just don't think Ubisoft really falls into their line of sight of interest because there's not that much for them in terms of portfolio offerings. If you're trying to expand everything you're going to be able to deliver to gamers, and you look at what Ubisoft has, like, yes, you have Assassin's Creed, you have Splinter Cell, you have Prince of Persia, and then what do you have? You have Rayman and Just
Rainbow
Dance.
Six. Rainbow Six is a good
Yeah,
one. That's
Rainbow
a very
Six.
popular live service game.
But it's kind of a situation of, is this worth the investment if you are Microsoft to bring Ubisoft into the fold? Probably not. Even though they would be very cheap to be exceptionally affordable, I don't think they're a company that Microsoft would look at and say, we really gain anything by bringing them into our umbrella. So it might be a passing interest of, well, let's see what the talks are. Let's see what they're looking for. Does this work for us? But I don't think Microsoft would make a play at a company like Ubisoft, especially in a post-ABK acquisition world.
That's the thing is, I don't think there's a move for them now. Like that would get to the point where it's like, okay, Microsoft, hold on a minute, hold on a minute here. Like we already had this whole thing with Activision Blizzard. You're scooping up more IPs. But if they hadn't got Activision Blizzard, if this opportunity came up, I kind of feel like we'd be hearing about Microsoft moving in on this right now.
Potentially, they'd probably weigh the pros and cons and say, okay, where are we in terms of the industry? Where are we market share wise? Does this make sense for us? And I still think it's a tough buy for even, let's say, $2 billion because the IPs, though there is some strength to them, if Ubisoft has failed to do anything with them, is there reason to believe that if Microsoft acquired them, that they would be able to do anything meaningful with them as well? Or is it just going to be another wasted situation of, great, we own Rayman, but we don't have a development team to make the game. Much like, hey, we have Banjo-Kazooie, we have Killer Instinct, we have Battletoads, we have so many IPs from Rare that we do nothing with. You still need development teams to make the games. So if you brought Ubisoft into the fold, do you have development teams to make games for these IP? Or are you still going to find yourself in a similar situation as Ubisoft of, yeah, we want to make a Splinter Cell game, but the team that would be doing it is working on another IP right now. So we have to
They're
wait.
making a Splinter Cell. They're making a Splinter Cell remake. It's coming back someday.
Eventually, yes.
Someday. I mean it's got to come back before if they go under, we need Splinter Cell to come back first. We need that. I need that remake first. Or Prince of Persia. Sands of Time remake.
Yeah, Sands of Time, the game, the basic HD remaster that's been in development for 5 years.
I'm never getting these games. The two franchises, I'm like, man, I'd love to see a new Splinter Cell. I'd love to see a new 3D Prince of Persia game. Oh, even better, they're going to bring back the old ones that I like, and they're going to remake them. And it's probably going to come out when I'm like 40.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing, is it's great that you have the IPs, but it's more important of what you do with them. And I don't know if, Microsoft would be able to do anything with them had they been in a situation to purchase Ubisoft, because Ubisoft does nothing with them.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, I just look at their wealth of IPs, and if Microsoft had plans for them or could maybe come up with something, even outside of games, as we see the big push for media, whether it's TV series on streaming or movies, there's a lot of potential there from intellectual properties that have been around forever. Like Prince of Persia just has 35th anniversary. That's pretty good for a storied franchise like that. Interestingly enough, Nate, did you see some of the rumors going around? So how do you feel about Tencent coming in and scooping Ubisoft with them?
I mean, they're not the worst company to make the acquisition. I guess we would have to learn in terms of how hands-on would they be, or if it would just be primarily a acquisition of, we've purchased you, you have the money, operate as you've been, except now we do have some say, we're on the board. But I'm sure there's other companies also inquiring. numerous suitors are probably engaging with conversations with Ubisoft to see which ones really fit their needs. Because you have to remember, Ubisoft is a family-owned company. So they're
Right.
going to look for someone who is going to accept their terms, who they feel is going to be the best for their family business. So while Tencent is, the more active of the suitors, it doesn't mean there aren't other companies waiting in the wings to also engage with these conversations. But if Tencent is the one who comes away with the company, it wouldn't surprise either.
Did you see the rumors around how Black Flag could actually be closer than we thought, about a year out now? If they're able to get it into 2025, maybe holiday is the target. And then there's supposed to be Assassin's Creed Shadows. That's obviously we know now February 14th. And then apparently there's Assassin's Creed Invictus, which is a multiplayer game for Assassin's Creed that's coming out next year too.
Yeah, it's a lot of Assassin's Creed in a single calendar year, which would suggest something is going to get bumped.
I know they're looking at the multiplayer and they're like, we want this. We want a multiplayer game for Assassin's Creed. But man, Black Flag is like a fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And right now Ubisoft is like scrambling for goodwill. Kind of feels like maybe you go that route and you polish up the multiplayer experience a bit more for the following year.
Yeah, if the reports about Assassin's Creed Shadows also having a co-op feature that will come post-launch, I think you could get away with delaying the Assassin's Creed multiplayer experience and then just release Black Flag in November of next year as currently penned. And I think that would be a fine calendar year for them. You have 2 huge releases in the calendar year, and Black Flag should sell millions of copies handedly. It's a beloved entry to the franchise, and people want to play it on a modern system. So if you give it some meaningful upgrades, I think you'll sell the game easily. It's just a question of, will there be a little bit of fatigue if you try to cram 3 Assassin's Creed games within a 10-month period? And I would side with yes. I don't think any diehard Assassin's Creed fan is looking to play 3 Assassin's Creed games in the same calendar year, especially between February and November.
Just how those games can go on and on and on at times for the open world one, like the real open world, where they started doing Valhalla and MVG was like, oh yeah, that was like 80 hours or something to play through the game. Like, well, that's not for me. I'm good. Or Origins was the same thing. It took forever to get through. So I'm picturing Shadows taking forever to get through. Then you get a multiplayer game that probably just never ends because it's multiplayer. And then you have Black Flag. So it's like, that's a lot. That is a lot. The thing with the Black Flag, though, Nate, I noticed this, even if people aren't like heavy Assassin's Creed fans, if they've just been in and out of the series franchise here and there, man, everyone seems to like Black Flag. That's like the one you come back to and like, yeah, that was great Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, a lot of people like the pirate aspect. They like sailing. They like, pillaging and doing all of that. It just felt as though it was such a unique take on Assassin's Creed, especially following Assassin's Creed 3. You just had this bigger world to explore, and it gave it new life at the time. So if you can come back around and give that experience again, and if you could refine and expand upon the sailing aspect, take some of the, take what you did with Skull and Bones in terms of the sailing, put that into Black Flag, because people made the comparisons all the time saying, hey, this is basically Black Flag without the Assassin's Creed portions of the game. If you can really flesh that out more and have more naval combat and such, you could make Black Flag remaster, whatever they're going to pen it next year, be a substantial release for your company. And I think it will generate a lot of excitement. So if the game is to release next year as scheduled or as intended, you have to imagine we'll get some sort of blowout from Ubisoft in their typical June window where we will see the game for the first time.
Liza Phil Spencer did ask if we're going to be playing Sparking Zero. I said earlier, getting physical. Sparking Zero is out this week coming up. I will be playing it, absolutely. I think Nate's going to play it too, actually.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll get it day one. I will get it this year. I'm just not sure if it'll be a day one thing.
Let me ask anyone is anyone in the chat, just to want to see it, if anyone in the chat going to be watching Dragon Ball Daima? Let me know. Let me know in the chat if you guys are watching that at all. I'm just curious. Just some market research. That's all. Just checking. Potential plans. Just want to see where people's heads are with that.
Well, we got a very immediate no. And then a yes.
Liza Phil Spencer says yes. No.
And now we got a nope.
Yes,
nope,
no,
yes.
no, yes, yes. It's all over the place. It's back and forth.
It's looking like a 50-50 split.
Okay. I can take that. A 50-50 split's good. I could take that. Awesome.
Wait, it's going to Netflix? Is that what they just said?
So the way this is going to work apparently is I think Crunchyroll gets it for a week and then it goes to Netflix after that. Like the episodes, I believe.
Okay, 2 services I do not have.
Do you have any of those? Do you have any streaming service? I never asked you that.
No.
Wow, interesting. Huh. Someone usually has one of them, something. Oh, surprising.
The problem is when I look at the streaming services, they typically have maybe one show that will be of my interest. I'm like, well, why am I going to pay you 15 or $10 a month to watch that one show? Because then I'll cancel it. And I'm not going to watch the rest of their catalog where it's like, oh, you can watch old episodes of MASH. Like, yeah, I can't wait to give you $15 a month to watch a show from 45 years ago. There's just no appeal to me in terms of like long-term subscription.
Got it. Well, we'll see what we can figure out with that. The whole thing. We might have some plans in the works. We'll see. We did have Microsoft. They have their research development team, of course. And one of that had to do with them asking developers, why are you skipping Xbox? Basically, why do you make games for our consoles? And this is them, of course, collecting a lot of data as much as they can, most likely going into next generation when they probably build on top of their current pipeline, which the thing that's so strange about Microsoft is we do see the occasional head scratching moment brought up from developers or a studio where, Nate, do you still have yard sneakers?
Yes, I still have my yard sneakers. They don't have a sole. My toe is beginning to come out the front end of them, but they're still good for doing yard work. One day I'll take a picture of them and post them on Twitter.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
They're worse than you could probably ever imagine.
Just get new, like, cheap
Why am I going to buy
right?
new sneakers
Oh, my gosh.
to use in the yard? They're going to get dirty and they're going to fall apart, so I may as well use an old pair of sneakers that I don't. Well,
when do those get recycled out and new old sneakers go in?
I have a pair of running shoes that I wear right now that once they get a little messed up, they will become the new yard sneakers.
Okay, there you go. Just
but
when the whole front of your shoe comes off, basically.
Yeah, the yard sneakers are getting to that point. Like, they're actually beginning to collapse into themselves because the integrity of everything is just compromised.
You can turn those things into like sandals before you get rid of them at this rate. You'll cut them up and tie them and stuff.
I mean, I had to staple the bottom because they started to
flop. Man.
It's holding.
You can have your toe sticking out. You're just going to take a Sharpie, color it black or the same color as the shoe. I mean, that's good.
One day I'll post a picture of them before I get rid of them. And people are going to say, what on earth are those things?
Gosh. Well, Microsoft is asking developers, and we've had some developers show up on places like Twitter and just go, hey, they're not talking to us. Microsoft, we don't know why. We have a version ready. They're not communicating, so we can't release it now. I don't know if this is in response to that or them just trying to gather information into one place to then show to higher ups at Microsoft or just preparing for the next generation. But that was a legit question to ask developers. And I kind of feel like the obvious one that most people are going to point to has to do with sales specifically. But were you surprised, Nate, to see Microsoft just candidly ask, why are you skipping our platform?
No, not really. This is a pretty standard industry thing that companies will inquire of, what do we need to better our environment, our ecosystem to bring you in? What are we doing wrong? What would you give us for feedback? Why are you not coming to our platform? And that allows Microsoft to then conduct the research, talk to partners so they can solve these problems. So if it is a case of you simply do not have an audience for our game, Microsoft can then respond to them saying, okay, well, what would we have to do to work with you so we can build that audience? And maybe that publisher or developer in question can come back and say, well, what if we do a Game Pass deal where you give us enough money that it covers the development or the port? of our game, and we'll put it on the Xbox and we'll see how it does. And if it does well, we can commit further resources to your brand. So this is something that all the companies will do because they want to get an understanding of what partners want from, their product. So it's not too surprising to see Microsoft do this. And it could also be for future planning as they do plan for their next generation shift of, okay, this is what our partners are looking for. This is why they're not supporting us now, and this is how we can address this. It could be something also like discoverability on digital storefronts of we don't support you because you don't really promote us. There's no return on the investment by porting a game over to you. A lot of it will come down to basic economics and finances. And it can also just be a case of look what we've seen throughout the year where you've had indie studios and some third-party partners express on social media that when they reach out to Microsoft for, lot check or anything of the sort, Microsoft has been radio silent, and that has led to a lot of frustration with these companies. So it can be communication. It's basically just getting feedback on areas that Microsoft can improve upon and make a more inviting system for all the development partners out there.
Yeah, I imagine that's tough for them if many of the answers come back as, well, we're not in Game Pass and our stuff doesn't sell that well otherwise. I don't really know what you do about that if you're Microsoft. Like, what's the answer? What's the solve for that?
Yeah, I mean, that could be some of the feedback they are getting, and there really is no answer to that. It's okay, we really haven't cultivated a good audience for you. So we have to work on that. We have to figure something else out that it has Game Pass devalued games to a certain subsection of our audience where they're not willing to buy these indie games because they're waiting for them to come to Game Pass. How can we counteract that? And that's something Microsoft then has to sit down and internally have that discussion of what are we to do to address this? Or do they sit down and say, well, let's get more indie games on Game Pass? What will it cost us to get some of these games onto the service? There's multiple ways they can approach it, but that's something Microsoft does have to sit down and figure out. And that's where, by putting out these surveys, they're able to collect all this data and have those conversations internally and hopefully come up with a good solution and not some weird knee-jerk reaction where they either overcompensate or undercompensate and make a rash decision that is ultimately poor for not just the consumer, but also business partners.
Yeah, this just feels like them just gathering as much information as they can in the next couple of years before they head into next generation. Get it all written down, get it on paper, get it on the record from developers who are just filling these things out. So, man, it does feel really weird as it does seem like Microsoft is like really thinking about next gen still. Like right now, it's like Xbox Series, sure, we're selling them, but like next gen all the way. Let's get stuff together for it. See, look, Nate, how can you build an audience if you never release on Xbox, though?
You see, that was one of the talking points that we used to have with Nintendo pre-Nintendo Switch.
That's
You
true.
had third-party companies. They would always say, we would love to support Nintendo, but we don't think you have an audience. Even during the Switch, you had the Yakuza company come out and say, we would love to put Yakuza on there, but we don't view the Switch as a platform that would have the audience that wants to engage with our game. So what does Nintendo do? They listen to their partners, and then they built a system that could bring in that audience. And then they can show their partners like, oh, you don't think we have that adult market or that teenage market? We do. Here's some examples of games similar to your own that are selling on our platform. And if we have to engage with you some sort of financial incentive where we pay for the port or we cover some cost, we are willing to do that to show your games can be successful on our platform. And I think when you look at Xbox and Microsoft, you don't have to look any further than what Microsoft has done with some of the Japanese partners like Square Enix or Atlas. Those are all agendas and initiatives that Microsoft is advocating for. They are going out of their way and spearheading that. They went to Atlas and said, we can sell your games on Xbox. We can make Persona something on the Xbox platform. And they made a lot of marketing deals with them. They put the Persona games on Game Pass to say, we have that audience. They went to Square Enix and said, we can still be good partners with each other. And we're finally beginning to see some of the fruit of those negotiations. But Microsoft went out of their way and cultivated this. It's still not a huge, thriving ecosystem, but they're showing the partners, we can do this. Just tell us what you need from us. It takes time. It's not an instant fix, but it takes, it can take years. But Microsoft is at least putting in the effort, and they're willing to invest in it.
I feel like the 140 million plus Switch systems probably helped too to get some of those games to come back to the platform.
Yeah, I mean, having a big install base is definitely a good incentive for companies to say, well, let's begin to at least consider bringing games over. I mean, look at the Wii. Capcom did bring over Dead Rising. It was a
lot of stuff on
compromised
the
version.
Wii. Like they did whatever they had to get it there.
Yeah, good. Call of Duty 4. You had a
Medal
lot of
of
games
Honor.
come over. Yep, Medal of Honor. You had a Dead Space game, which was a light gun.
Right. There's a lot of stuff on there. Resident Evil was all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Like if there's a will, there's a way. And sometimes you just have to provide a little bit of incentive in terms of financial incentive to get a company to do so.
I don't know. I'm curious. I'm really curious what their vision for next gen is, because I mean, if there was 100 million Xbox Series systems out there right now, I don't think there'd be many companies skipping their platform, to be honest. I think it'd be like, yeah, all right, let's do it. How do we get it there? Nate, have you upgraded from a Galaxy S5 yet to at least a 10?
No, I still have my Galaxy S5.
That Galaxy S5 lives.
And it's going to keep on living.
It's like a 10-year-old phone, isn't it?
And it works perfectly fine.
The
I'm
person
looking
holding
at it
on for
right
dear life
now.
to that base PS4 right now.
What is wrong with the Galaxy S5?
It's a Galaxy S5.
No, the problem is everyone thinks because it's old that it has no value.
Came out a year after the original PlayStation 4 released.
That's fine. And PS4 is getting games into 2026.
It is. It is. That's so... I can't believe that. We did have some Game Pass games get announced, Nate. And you know what? This kind of threw me off a little bit here, okay? Because it's not the typical Game Pass announcement. And in some ways, you can kind of see it as a bit confusing, because they do present this with standard on console, then like Ultimate PC standard, and like there's cloud in there, console, but it's Sifu, Mad Streets, Inscription, Open Roads, MLB The Show 24. Open Roads and MLB Show 24, they have marked here as just standard for console. The others, they have Ultimate PC standard, Ultimate PC standard, Ultimate PC standard, cloud, PC, console. So it's I know they introduced these tiers somewhat recently, right? But it feels very tedious with some of the marketing here. I just noticed that. I said, that's cool that something like MLB The Show 24 is going into standard, because obviously baseball is like now in like the midst of playoffs, and that is when people would probably want to play a baseball game right now. But it's just, I saw the marketing for it. I'm like, man, we're getting to like the fine print on the fine print for some of this stuff. So that's something else. We're talking about things going into next gen. Figure out maybe a better path for Game Pass as an app, as a way to present it in this situation. And hey, maybe drop Xbox Live Gold while you're at it. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, we have some games at least going into standard. As they said, some games will cycle in over time. MLB The Show 24, Sony helping out.
Yeah, I mean, Game Pass, especially with the new tiers system, everyone expected that it's going to just be a marketing mishmash of communication, and that Microsoft has to do a better job communicating exactly what is their day one in each month. And I mean, I guess this is the best solution they can really come up with. And again, the vast majority of Game Pass subscribers are on the Ultimate tier to begin with. So I would imagine a lot of this isn't impacting the vast majority of Game Pass subscribers to begin with, because MLB The Show was something that came to Game Pass Ultimate way back in March on opening day of the MLB season. So for them to see it there again, it's kind of like, well, I've been playing this for the last 8 months. This isn't new.
Yeah.
So for standard subscribers, that's a nice new addition for them. Like, ooh, this is exciting for the reasons you mentioned. It's the playoffs. Let me play a baseball game. But Microsoft still has a communication challenge ahead of them when it comes to the Game Pass tiers and new additions. And it's really going to get worse once Microsoft begins to release more and more first-party games onto the system. So, like Indiana Jones, I could see maybe some of the standard they may vent a little frustration of like, oh, I thought I got Indiana Jones with Game Pass. Like, you're on the wrong tier. Maybe we begin to see that.
Oh, yeah.
But
I assume they're going to say upgrade, play Indiana Jones day one, upgrade your Game Pass tier or something like that. Nate,
I'm
we
sure. I
had
mean, I think that's their whole incentive is to they'd be like, okay, here's what you get with standard. For a few extra dollars, you get everything. So why are you
Right.
even going to this? Why are you using this tier? You know you want your games day one. Do it. We're just providing you with a base level incentive to use standard, but we really want you to upgrade. 85% of you are already on the ultimate tier. The other 15%, just upgrade at this point. Please.
Nate, Tokyo Game Show happened what feels like an eternity ago. Just how the news cycle moves. It's rapid. It's nonstop. But we did a Tokyo Game Show, and Microsoft, I would say, had a pretty good showing. Like I went into it with low to almost no expectations because I don't typically see Tokyo Game Show as a place that Microsoft is going to show up and go all out for. But I was pleasantly surprised. What were your quick overall thoughts of this? And what I mentioned was we can pick out like a game or two that really stood out to us from the show, from Microsoft's broadcast, whatever, something coming to Xbox.
I mean, stand out in terms of new announcements.
Yeah, sure.
Probably
Or just
that.
announcements there. Something that's like you keep seeing, like they showed it again. You're like, all right, that really looks good. But
I mean, I was glad to see Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta again. It was a really good trailer.
Looks good, right? Man,
it looks fantastic.
Wasn't there a lot of concern? There's a lot of concern when that first was shown, and it was like, okay, Virtuo's doing that. Okay, wait, hold on. Konami's gonna try this. Ooh, but it's looking good.
Yeah, it looks great and I mean very promising. I like how they did modify the face of Ocelot, and he actually looks like Ocelot now in Metal Gear Solid 3 versus the original release, where he didn't look anything like Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid 1 or 2. So that was a nice change. Overall, though, Delta looks fantastic. There was also the 2D RPG that they announced. It was like Threads of Fate or
Threads of Time. That was one I had written down. Threads of Time. It looked that one. It popped up on screen. I was like, whoa, what is this now? It's like it looks like an HD 2D game, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks really good.
I was
like
not
a very promising game.
Yeah, I don't know who. Hold on, I saw this, and I don't even know who was making it.
I don't think it was really a company of any significant prestige. I think it was kind of just a very kind of unknown indie company.
Time traveling JRPG inspired by the classics. It's a turn-based JRPG inspired by Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy. Travel the ages with your party from the early prehistoric era to the far future in this charming, modernized 2.5D pixel art adventure built in, get this, Unreal Engine 5.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that was an Unreal Engine 5. Let me see if I can get a trailer going here. Can I do this? I feel like
you should be able to.
Let me see. Everyone hold on. I'm doing technology. We got it? Check it out. So this is Threads of Time. And
wait, did that just say 12 million BC?
I think so. Is that what it said? Oh, yeah. I said prehistoric times. We're going back to like dinosaurs and stuff. I just wanted to get to the visuals, like how. Okay, look at that. There we go. Okay, I think that looks awesome. I wouldn't expect that to be like UE5 either, but I mean that's what it is. What a cool idea. Oh, that looks really cool in like kind of the night city right there. Apocalypse. So I'm all in on this one.
Yeah, this game looks fantastic.
I don't know if we have a release date or anything on it yet. I kind of feel like they said it's like a partial going the. Yeah, you can kind of see some of the UE5 effects there. Like it's got like that old style mixed with like new age. Yeah, how cool is that? So I'm all in on this one.
Yeah, I think I think that was the big standout for me in terms of new announcements because everything else that was new for Xbox, it was Final Fantasy Pixel remasters. There was the Trials of Mana, Legend of Mana coming to Game Pass, which are fine announcements in their own right. They're just not that exciting. I think the Tokyo Game Show, with some of the hype leading up to it, where people were saying, you don't want to miss this show, I think you kind of did this. You did the event a bit of a disservice because you raised expectation. It was good for a Microsoft Tokyo Game Show presence, but it wasn't a show that anyone couldn't miss. It was something you could easily have woken up the next morning, caught the headlines, and said, "Oh, cool! There was some interesting announcements, some trailers I got to watch." But overall, I mean, I guess it's pretty standard Tokyo Game Show stuff. Nothing too shocking. Just yeah, it's fine for what it was.
For anyone wondering, that game is Threads of Time. So, well, I don't even know. See what platforms is it on? Obviously, they showed it at the Xbox event, so it'll be there. I don't know. Did they announce it for anything else? Okay, so I see it's on Xbox and it's on Steam. They have a wish list, Xbox wish list, Steam. I don't see anything for other platforms on their website right now.
Well, I mean, maybe Microsoft went out of their way, made a little bit of a deal on it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's
I mean, otherwise, why would an indie company, especially a Japanese company, possibly make their game exclusive to Xbox?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hey, if they scouted that one out and found it, good for that. That's a good eye on that one. It is. So yeah, it's Threads of Time. We don't have a release date on it. It's still to be announced, but really, really cool idea there. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one. That to me was the highlight. You're right, though. The Final Fantasy Pixel remasters was another big one. Didn't go into Game Pass at all. They just put it out there for sale. And it seems to have been rising up the sales charts for the last week or so. I think it's in like number 12 or 13 right now. So it has been picking up some momentum, which is good. But otherwise, Trials of Mana going into Game Pass, I think is a good one to pick up and play. I really enjoyed that, which was years ago that I played it, but I think it's a solid game. Definitely a good one to just download on Game Pass if you want to play something that's not necessarily turn-based JRPG. It's kind of like that action, go into battle, fight people kind of thing. So, but not a bad show for Microsoft. Not bad. Need that Delta release date, Nate.
2025.
I can't believe that was in that Sony trailer for 2024.
Blame the Sony PlayStation blog for lying
I'm
to
blaming
you
them.
and saying
I'm
it's coming in
blaming them.
2024, and Konami's sitting there saying we never said that.
I'm blaming
Why
them.
is everyone expecting this game out this year? We have Silent Hill 2.
There's still time. It's just October. They can announce it tomorrow. They can announce it next week for December. Gosh. Well, maybe it's first half of next year. Here, I'm curious about this one. How would people's take be on this one? Okay. Let's say Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta comes out, Snake Eater. And I'm just going to throw this out there. Scores at 93. Incredible. People are like, okay, this is an amazing game. Still a classic. Looks even better now. Is that a Game of the Year nomination worthy? Can you do that with a remake like that?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I have a hard time really seeing Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta review even close to as well as the original release because we know that it's basically just a fresh coat of paint over the skeleton of the original game. So it's going to review well because it's still the fantastic game that it was, which will lead to some point reduction because it's not doing anything too innovative or new to freshen it up.
It did. Well, hold on. They were going over all this Tokyo Game Show. They have the fixed camera, which is Legacy, and they have New Style, which basically turns it into Resident Evil remake, like that kind of point of view. So they have, and they actually changed up AI, difficulty, everything to account for it.
But is that enough that you would elevate your review score into the 90s? Or are you going to say, okay, the competent version of the game, what they've changed up is nice, but because it's still Metal Gear Solid 3 at the end of the day, I'm giving it an 85.
What if it got like an 89? I mean, the original one it says here was a 91, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. What if it was like an 89 in it? I mean, basically, if it was up there, would you... I assume it would be able to do that because we had it with RE Remake. That remember the second one was nominated.
I think it enters the conversation a bit, but we'll use something from this year. Will Silent Hill 2 enter the conversation?
Oh, no, it can't go in.
Why?
You realize why I want to ask these questions, right?
Yeah, you want Jeff Keighley to have to acknowledge Konami at the Game Awards.
But tell me Silent Hill, it's like, whatever. Tell me Metal Gear wouldn't eat at him a bit, Jeff. Tell me
if he had to go up there and say the award for whatever category goes to Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, and he doesn't have Kojima standing next to the presenter, it's going to make his blood boil, because it's going, and you'll probably have the camera pan to Kojima in the audience, biting his tongue, grimacing like, that's my game and I'm not up there. But I mean, I'd love to see it happen because it'd be ironic and funny. But
what if it set up the moment, Nate, where Kojima and Konami bury the hatchet, resolve their differences, and he presents the award to them and they shake hands?
So you want to have that moment from the Game Awards years ago where you had Reggie and who was it from Sony? Jack Tretton?
No, I think what was it? No, I thought it was Sean Layden.
Was it Sean Layden?
Are you talking about all of them on stage? All three?
Yeah, you had all of them on stage and they all united under the flag of gaming.
Yeah.
You want
in this case,
Kojima and Konami.
Bury the hatchet with Konami on stage at Jeff Keighley's show. That he
Jeff
would make
Keighley
sure
standing in the middle of them as though he brokered the peace.
Hey.
He set it up.
I feel like fans would actually be pretty happy to see that. That would actually be a good moment for the Game Awards. Make it happen, Jeff. Stuff the ballot box. Get Metal Gear Solid 3 up there for nomination. Maybe even win.
I mean, it would be
Come
a
on,
moment.
that would be so crazy.
It would be a moment. Like, Kojima, how do you feel about the game you made that you didn't have any involvement with winning? I am thrilled.
Oh, you know what the interesting thing is, if let's just say somehow Snake Eater was like one of the highest rated games of the year, broken in the 90s, 92, 93, and it didn't get nominated for the game of the year, even though there are some that are like 85 or something that gets nominated, that would be a whole thing.
Oh, it'd be the conversation online of, are Konami games being ignored by the Game Awards because of Jeff Keighley's love of Kojima? Or, and this would be the most wild outcome, what if Delta reviews well and it beats Death Stranding 2 next year?
That would be interesting.
Like, you think Jeff would allow that for an award? Would be like, the best PS5 game of 2025 goes to Delta. Shit.
Well, Ghost of Yote's there. I'm sure that'll take both of them out.
Whoa.
Ghost of Tsushima wasn't Ghost of Tsushima nominated for Game of the Year? Yeah, it was. It'll at least be. It would be there if they kept it within reason for like what you'd expect the review score to be for that. But that's the thing. I am really curious about how Metal Gear Solid 3 gets received, because that could set up a very awkward end of the year.
It could. I mean, right now, Konami's kind of on a hot streak. You had the Castlevania DS trilogy just land, reviewed exceptionally well. Very good versions of those three games. Silent Hill 2 is reviewing very well. A lot of excitement around it. And Metal Gear Delta, a lot of excitement around that as well. It's kind of, Konami's leveraging their IPs in a smart way. They're hiring and outsourcing the games to talented studios, and they're bringing them, and fans are excited. These are the games we grew up with. We have fond memories of the Konami golden era, which was in the PS2 era. And we're finally we're being able to revisit some of those games, and they're doing great with them. It's just going to be a question of, can they maintain this momentum moving forward? Because if they can, Konami's kind of back. And Konami being back is a good thing for the industry.
Speaking of being back, hopefully everyone in the chat sitting down for this one.
Oh God,
ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to excite people too much, but it doesn't seem like Tony Hawk Pro Skater is done yet. That's right. Tony Hawk took to Instagram. This was for the 25th anniversary, just in case someone out there doesn't feel old. Tony Hawk Pro Skater series now 25 years old. Remember, it came out in 1999. And then they were able to follow that up with another game a year later. So we went from Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 to the greatness of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. And then just like another year or two later, we went to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. It's a magical time in gaming. It would blow people's minds nowadays. But Tony Hawk did take to Instagram. Said thanks to Activision, Neversoft, which you put RIP next to Neversoft, and all of you that played Tony Hawk Pro Skater in those formative years. I'm not supposed to tease anything else about the future of the series, but there will be a future. Remember, this was on the heels of him saying he had been talking to Activision about something, and then he realized he maybe shouldn't have said that, and then he stopped talking. This reminds me very much of how Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake leaked out. If you remember, we heard from music artists, Tony Hawk himself. Like, he really wants to tell people that something is happening, that he's working on a game right now, but he's not allowed to because obviously the video game industry is like stupid secretive about everything.
Yeah, I mean, at one point there definitely was an active development project that was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4, similar to
Right.
what they did with 1 and 2. And I wouldn't be too surprised if Activision, under Microsoft's tutelage, have gone back and reactivate that development, because that is something fans had begged for after the release of 1 and 2. So if they came out with that, wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, otherwise, I don't really know what they would do for the anniversary that would be significant to really excite fans. We already have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 on modern platforms. So if you give them 3 and 4, that's new, it's fresh, it's something to be excited about. I don't know necessarily if a new entry would generate that much excitement. I know you were excited for Skate when EA came out and announced that, and now your excitement for Skate is basement level because every decision they've made since the announcement has been questionable.
Yeah, it has been. It's
So
like a big live service thing now, and it's on phones. It's like, what happened? I thought we were just getting Skate 4.
nope, got everything but. So, like, I don't know if a new Tony Hawk Pro Skater would really be a big deal with a modern gaming audience, because is skateboarding that big of a thing? Like, when we grew up, you had the X Games and everything was on the
dude,
rise.
X Games was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was the peak of like X Games excitement, was in the early 2000s. Is that a thing right now? Is that something people are really looking forward to? I know you had the kid who did what? He did like a 1080 or something, or what did he do in a skateboard recently?
He did a couple, I thought he had like 2 900s or something like that. He was going crazy.
He did like 2 or 3 900s, and even Tony Hawk was like, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, with skateboarding's kind of gotten a little bigger from the YouTube space. I feel like a lot of people are at least just trying to, and it might be older people like us who are like, let me go back and relive my youth that my late to mid 30s, and they're looking stuff up on YouTube. But it did seem like there was a bit of a following there that had kind of grown. But honestly, at this point, they can get away with remaking these old Tony Hawk games, and no one's going to be annoyed by it. I feel like most people get annoyed by remasters because we see so many of them. So many people are just calling for remakes of these older Tony Hawk games, especially after what Vicarious Visions did with 1 and 2. They are now known as Blizzard Albany, by the way. And that's a logo I expect to appear. Like, it sounds weird, but yeah, technically Blizzard would probably be working on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 then.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to pick the most likely outcome, I would say it's going to be 3 and 4 being remade similar to 1 and 2. But I'm all in for a surprise. Let's see what Tony Hawk and Activision have cooking.
You know what I thought about it, Nate? So they did Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, right? That was not good.
Was that the one that you got the skateboard deck?
That damaged the franchise. That's where you could actually be a Ninja Turtle in it, which was kind of neat. But the art style was bad. It did it didn't feel like the actually skating around and stuff didn't feel great. And then the franchise went away, and we kind of didn't think it would come back. And then 1 and 2 remake was actually the best selling in the franchise, this most recent one. So it makes sense to do it again. And you could technically put it in Game Pass. Yeah, you could drop it in there, and that would maybe get some hype going there. But you know what I wouldn't mind for a new one? I actually wouldn't mind them saying, we're not going to do Tony Hawk Pro Skater 6. We're going to do a follow-up, a new Tony Hawk Underground. And you can kind of call it something else if you want, but that's kind of the idea. Is you'll start off as just like as they say, underground, but like just a basic, like a person amateur who works their way up that way, and it's more storyline driven. I think that could be kind of fun. So
would you be disappointed if they just came out and said, oh, to celebrate Tony Hawk's anniversary, we're putting Tony Hawk 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 on Game Pass, and that was it?
Well, like like 1 and 2, like to do 3 and 4, they would go back to the original Xbox and make those back
Hmm.
compat. My only thing is though, they would have to get the music license. And if I remember right, 1 and 2 they were missing tracks that they just couldn't seem to get done. And then you also have the likeness of different skaters as well that can become an issue. So I don't know if it makes sense to do that when you could probably spend similar money remaking the thing.
True. And
So that's my only thing
hopefully,
with that.
like, hopefully all the teasing does lead to something significant. And it's not just going to be like, oh, they're releasing a actual skateboard deck for $200 that's themed after the
Oh
games.
gosh. Do
Yay.
do 3 and 4 and test it again, because 1 and 2 I think passed, because again it's the best selling right now in the franchise. Try 3 and 4, see how that does. I mean, 1 and 2.
Mhm.
The thing is, we all remember Tony Hawk Pro Skater series very fondly. They didn't sell overwhelming numbers of copies. Like 1 and 2 remake was the best selling one with less than I think 2 million copies sold or something like that.
Which is really
So
surprising when you think about it, because 1 and 2 on the PS1, N64, Dreamcast, and PS2 also had, was it Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2X?
oh, that was the original Xbox at 2X, but
Okay.
PlayStation 2 did have Tony Hawk 3 and 4, and that was a massive install size there.
But it's like when you look back at those games, those were games, felt as though everyone you knew at school and
Yeah.
such, or people you played sports with, everyone would be like, oh yeah, I got a copy of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Come over, we'll play, because I can't, let's see who can be better on the factory level or the schoolyard or something. It seemed as though
Hanger.
everyone was playing that game. It's also one of the highest rated games of all time.
It is. Yeah.
So to see that it sold so poorly is kind of a shock.
Well,
'Cause it
okay, so
doesn't-
3 and 4 came around when we were just breaking into the mainstream. I'd say the PS2 broke us into the mainstream. And it wasn't like, it was kind of earlier on in the life. And then we went to Thug, and that sort of got away from that
Mhm.
original arcadey sense of Tony Hawk. So I think it was kind of this weird situation of like, it came about with the PS1, and that was just breaking that PS2 broke mainstream. But we got 3 and 4 early on when it was still racking up units for systems. Then Thug comes out, and I feel like Thug, people remember that as being really popular. I feel like any of the first 4 were more popular.
I actually just remembered one of my friends loved the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Never bought the game because they had the factory level on the demo disc, and he would just play the demo disc all the time. He's like, I don't need the full game. He's like, I'll just keep playing this one level. And you'd get crazy high scores. He'd be like, why don't you just buy the game? Be like, no, this is fun enough. It was a good demo, to be fair.
It was. You basically just had a 2-minute run in the warehouse as many times as you wanted.
That was enough.
But then you miss out on all the other iconic stuff. I don't know.
I mean, when you think of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, what level do you think of?
I mean, most people think of the warehouse, or the second one, the hangar. Most people think of the hangar.
Yeah.
The first one, people think of the warehouse. Obviously, that's what we all started with. Yeah,
And that's it.
Although
Like all the other levels, you're like, oh, the
school
school is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good level. But otherwise, no one cares after the first 2 levels. Those are the levels that you made memories on.
We did. I do want to bring this up, Nate. Looking forward, as we seem to bring up 2026 a lot, there is an anniversary coming up, and it's this is from Tim, who said I only ever played the demo in the warehouse too. There you go. So I guess that was a common demo disc that people got their time out of, which, hey, at least people enjoyed it. This was actually about the anniversary coming up in 2026. And it's funny, I saw this pop up online for like Windows Central and stuff, and they were talking about this anniversary for Xbox and for Halo. And I thought, okay, yeah, the 25th anniversary. That's not for 2 more years, right? So I thought that was weird that they were already bringing it up. However, it does kind of feel like through merchandising and now even an interview with the Xbox head of consumer products, that's John Friend, discussing a variety of topics, which does include licensing and even plans for this anniversary, they are indeed already kind of getting this going. They're figuring out what they're going to do for the 25th anniversary of Xbox and for Halo. Now, the belief is that Microsoft may launch in 2026, or at least the next generation. I do kind of wonder if this is all lining up for them to use that 25th anniversary of Xbox to kind of push their next generation as like a big milestone thing. But then also, is it possible they have something Halo related ready to go by then?
I mean, we did have the rumors not too long ago about Microsoft looking to remake Halo Combat Evolved.
Yep.
So,
I was thinking that exactly when I read this.
yeah, if you're going to do the 25th anniversary, what better way of celebrating the anniversary than with a remake of what started it all? And you did the Halo anniversary release back on the 360. And Combat Evolved is still beloved by Halo fans. It's a fantastic game. Even to this day, you can go back, play the Master Chief Collection, pop on Halo 1, and you'll have you have the time of your life playing it. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that is how they're going to celebrate Halo's 25th anniversary. And if that is when the next gen Xbox releases, make it a launch game. Let's come full circle.
Dude,
Let's launch the new Xbox the exact way we did it 25 years ago. You could have a hell of a marketing cycle doing like a nostalgia grab of 25 years ago. You sat on your floor and played Halo for the first time. And boom, let's do it again. Be like, oh my God, I'll
still be sitting on the floor. Let's do it. I'll do it. That's, yeah, that is a great idea. Look, even Tony says Halo Pro Skater 3. Didn't even think of that, Tony. You could have crossover with Halo in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. Doesn't just have to be Darth Maul or Spider-Man or whatever in these games now. You can, well, they probably can't do that anymore either, but you could put Halo in there in its place. You can collaborate with these things. And I like the idea of the next Xbox coming out and having a Halo game, that being the remake of the original Halo. That would indeed pull it like the nostalgia strings. But you're right. Could you imagine the marketing where they have you first bring home the original Xbox with Halo? You pop it in, the iconic startup noise, the Halo, like the whole title screen.
You got
and then it fast forward you going from being an excited, aspiring young teenager to just being beaten down and disgruntled as a 40-year-old adult.
Man.
And now they're like, look, you can go back and you two can relive your old days as part of your midlife crisis. You can blame that on buying this $500 or $600 machine and this game that's now $70. And I'd be like, you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, you throw in all you have to do in the marketing. You can have the guy coming home from work. He's tired. He's had a long day. You see him pick up the controller. He hits the button. You hear the Xbox, boot up sound. And then the silent cartographer is on the screen, and you just hear that, and you see the joy come to his face, and then you transition, show him as a little kid, and all the memories, and then you end it with their son or daughter coming on, handing them the controller, and he says something like, "Let's kill some Covenant or Flood or something stupid."
Let the murder begin.
And then you advertise the multiplayer and
an 8-year-old son go off and make new memories, murdering.
Like, let's go. Getting the Scorpion, shoot down some Banshee. Let's do it. And I'd be sitting there saying, I got to get this day one. Like, yeah, I can play this game on every system that Xbox has released since the original Xbox, but no, I got to play it again. It's Halo 1. And maybe Sean will finally play the game.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, and people should shame him more for it. People in the chat understand Sean has not played any of the Halo campaigns. He doesn't know about the greatness that is the first Halo and what that did for a generation back then, and he should learn about it.
At least play the silent cartographer. At least be in the ship and panning over the beach, getting out, getting in the Warthog, and having the music hit.
That was sick. When you get the Warthog right there, that was awesome. That was awesome. You can play that co-op online with the Master Chief Collection. So if you want to play through with a friend, you can do that. You can just go right through it. It is a lot of fun too. So highly recommended. Highly. Definitely worth the 100+ gigabyte download for Master Chief Collection to do that. But that is still a very that the package of games there when it launched to now is like night and day better. So I can recommend it finally.
And I'm sure they'll have a lot of other stuff for the Halo
Nope, that's all I
anniversary.
need.
I think Microsoft has a deal with like Mega Bloks, and I think they've done some Halo sets and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if you see them lean into, the Mountain Dew and Doritos and everything that they've done in the past to generate a lot of hype around Halo again. And if that's the
Tried
way
to
they can
kill
make
us back in the
Halo,
day.
yeah, they didn't care. Gave us gamer
They
fuel, and they're like, play Halo 3 all night with gamer fuel. Like, what is it? It's pure
70 grams of
caffeine.
sugar in a can or something crazy.
Yeah, and eat Doritos while you're at it. Like, am I going to live in the morning? It doesn't matter. You're not sleeping tonight. Like,
Remember they would have to get like the codes off like the cans
hell
or
yeah.
off like
You got
the
double
the caps.
XP.
I swear
you-
people used to walk in, unscrew the caps, look at it, and put it back. I swear I used to catch people doing that at the retail store.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? I'm getting my Halo code. Like, buy the
Yeah,
bag of chips.
50%
No.
experience boost. That was the
Yeah,
thing
then you'd
back
get Taco Bell because that would give you experience boost as well if you got the Baja Blast with
then.
a
Testing the
burrito.
limits of modern medicine back then.
Oh, we were all in college or seniors in high school. We thought we were unstoppable. We were immortal. We could
That's true.
eat this crap and drink it and stay up for 3 days straight, and we'd be like, Halo.
Dude, those
And now
summers were
people are
great.
like, who the hell plays Halo?
I
We
know,
did.
it's sad. It's sad. It's sad. I wish I could teleport gamers now back to that time period because it was awesome. Man, those were the good days. No
Yeah, now we get
Fortnite,
Halo
no
adding a third-person viewpoint.
What's wrong with you people? We gotta make Halo third person now. You should all be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah, that wasn't. I was like, they put out the tweet, they're like, it's coming this November. I'm like, are you really trying to hype this up? Who would choose this?
People were kind of excited. And I was like, man,
I mean, why would I choose that as my preference play
we
mode?
went into third person enough when you get in the Warthog. There's plenty of that there.
Or if you have the turret, you walk around in third person.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. You're good. There's third person been there the whole time. That's fine. Oh, that might bring more people back though to Halo.
Well, we might have to download the game and reinstall it, and Sean might play because he likes picking on children who play the game for the first time.
I never uninstalled it. I've been there. I'm still
Yeah,
there.
well, you also have that like 2 terabyte memory stick in the back
Whoa,
of yours.
whoa. Maybe I do.
Yes.
I mean, my
so
PS5 has like a 4 terabyte in there.
I was looking at, what was it, the 8 terabyte one Sony sells on their website
Like a
for
grand or something like
$800 or something.
Yeah. I'm not going that crazy. This is a story.
Costs more than a Pro.
Yeah, I'm not doing all that.
I saw that. I was like,
Yeah.
is someone really out here spending $1,000 on an SD card or SSD? Like, I hope not.
I have some question or some comments from the last episode. If you want to be featured in one of these comment sections, leave a good, thoughtful comment. I'll go through them. I'll see what I can find. Make it easy on me. Nate, I mentioned in this podcast, it took a while to find comments because I had to wade through like 80% that were just dunking on Jason Schreier. But
Well,
eventually I found some. So make it easy on me. Leave some good comments. We'll read some of them out. Okay, I promise. I'll be reading them. Here's one from Dan is just Dan, who says, is the Steam Deck truly a popular consumer product or just trendy within the hardcore gaming community? Hasn't it only sold a few million units, which is dwarfed even by Xbox?
Mhm.
Hmm.
I mean, it's an
What do you think,
enthusiast.
How
It's an
popular do you think
enthusiast
the Steam Deck
product.
is?
I mean, it's popular amongst the enthusiast crowd who is seeking that particular type of device. It's a success in terms of Valve's expectations, but as far as a mass consumer product, it's not successful in the terms that we would typically, assign to it. It's successful for the market it is trying to cater to.
It's really funny. We just talked about Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and now this comes up because we swore everybody around us owned Tony Hawk, and then we get the sales numbers, and we're like, oh, maybe not. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Steam Deck. Like, I feel like I see a lot of people in my circle, even on like online for people really plugged in, are like, yeah, I really like my Steam Deck. It's awesome. I'm glad I own one. But then I feel like if we saw the sales numbers, we'd be like, really? It's not like 20 million or 30 million. It's like 5 million, 4 million. So I kind of think that would catch some people off guard. But Valve, you're right, did release this as an enthusiast product, but also just a way for them to continue expanding their market share in terms of Steam. If you buy a Steam Deck, I know some people load other OSs on there, but for the most part, you buy a Steam Deck, you're mostly just going to buy your games from Steam.
Mhm.
That was the plan. And it is a good device. It is. It's worked really well. I look forward to their next one because it seems like they are working with AMD to make a whole new chip. And I think it's going to be pretty impressive. Let's see. Slay Z-Town says, microwave tea, the UK does not approve. Okay, so I had to go through a lot of burials of me with microwaving water. That was a problem. Microwaving tea was a problem as well. People don't really mind microwaving coffee, though. I'm curious what the difference is.
You deserved every single one of those burials.
Well, hold on a minute here. I'm saving time, okay? And I'm trying to figure out what the difference is between microwaving coffee and microwaving tea.
Who the hell microwaves coffee?
What do you mean, just to warm it up?
People make fun of my yard sneakers, and you're microwaving coffee and tea and water and
You gotta
eggs.
warm it up. How would you warm up coffee after you poured it into a mug and it sits for like 10 or 15 minutes and it's getting cool? How do you warm it up?
I wouldn't warm it up. I'd probably just pour myself a new cup of coffee.
You just waste all that coffee?
Well, how do you make your coffee? Do you make a pot, or are you one of those people with like the Keurigs?
I just have a pot, like the
Okay.
filter.
I would probably just make it iced coffee at that point.
Really? You would go that far, huh?
I drink
I'll
black
just
coffee
warm it up. You know why?
anyways.
Because it takes 20 seconds. That's why. And then I drink
How do you
it.
take your coffee though?
It depends. If it's like, so for example, like it's like pumpkin spice season right now. Usually I'll just drink that with like a little bit of Splenda or something.
Okay, see, I'm just a black coffee drinker.
Well, it depends on like there's some coffee that's like super like dark coffee and it's like it has more of a bitter taste to it. I'll try to even that out sometimes with you can get like a little bit of like a light creamer or something in there just to balance it slightly. But for the most part, it's like maybe a touch of Splenda or something thrown in there and that's it.
Okay.
I don't like overwhelm. Some people like take like the cookie dough like creamer and just dump
What?
half of it in. It's like it kind of overwhelms like the entire point of drinking coffee then because you just lose the flavor.
Yeah, at that point you're just, I don't know what the hell I would consider that at that point.
Yeah,
Sugar.
that's what I do. I will warm up my coffee in the microwave. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Okay, there you go. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll think about the YouTube comments while I'm doing it.
Why don't you buy like a thermos type of mug so it keeps it warm for a long period of time?
Not really going anywhere with it. It's like it's here.
That's fine. You can put it in your
Right there.
house, you put it on your desk on a little coaster, and it stays warm for a good 45 minutes.
What'll work? You just want a mug? I got like a Kirby mug where it looks like Kirby's trying to eat the coffee. Well, I think the top of it broke off. Oh, well.
Okay.
Don't you have like different mugs and stuff you'd like to use? Don't you have like a somewhat like a slight mug collection? Everyone has a mug collection, don't they?
Yeah, but if I'm using the mug, I will drink it before it gets cold.
I have a really big mug though. It's like a Spider-Man mug, and it's a huge mug. It's like if I poured out half the thing of coffee, pot of coffee, it fits in the mug.
Well, you're not supposed to fill that type of mug. You're only supposed to fill it, like a quarter of the way.
Well, then why does the rest of the mug exist?
For decoration, appeal.
It's a big mug. That means you can
Pizzazz.
put a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, like ramen soup.
Also, the mug says it's microwave safe, means it's ready for the microwave. I don't think I'm the only one out there. I don't think so.
I mean, at this point, I'm 95% sure most of your cooking involves microwaving stuff. I thought Sean
it does,
was
yes.
going to be the
Fair
microwaver. You're going to say you microwave steak next.
Not a microwave steak. No. I cook steak correctly.
Do you microwave bacon?
Depends.
Oh my God, he's going to say
bacon you
yes.
get away with. Good turkey bacon. Doesn't react like pork bacon does, where that'll like turn into like a charred piece of like just like leather. Turkey bacon doesn't do that.
You got to rebrand your channel to microwave. It's not spawn wave, it's microwave.
What's wrong with what's the microwave slander now all of a sudden?
You
It's a
microwave.
very useful device.
You're microwaving
No,
your coffee.
it's coming from the person who hates on air fryers. You can't hate on air fryers then big time me with the microwave.
An air fryer is just a convection oven.
I said air frying chicken strips is very good. Air frying
I
chicken
have
is
a
very
toaster
good.
oven. I'll put it on convection, and guess what? They'll come out the same.
What's wrong with air fryers are awesome. That's like one of the greatest inventions known to man.
But it's a convection oven.
No, it's an air fryer.
I can get the same effect from my
Air
toaster
frying
oven.
coffee. We
If
might be
you
honest.
air fry coffee, I'm done.
There we go. Yeah, that's right. Let's bury Nate over his air fryer take. Get him. King Carrot says Final Fantasy 16 will sell like 10 copies on Xbox. Not even worth the porting cost. I do wonder how Final Fantasy 16 will perform on the Xbox, because I'm not expecting it to be in Game Pass at this point. I mean, they didn't have Pixel Remasters in there. I feel like it'll sell. I'm curious how it gets approached by how Square Enix and Microsoft like market and approach it, because I feel like that will be pretty big for them if they make a big deal out of it or something.
That's going to be the big thing, is that when, how's it going to release? What price is it going to release? Let's say it comes in cheap, an initial discount. Let's say it's $40, comes with both DLC expansions. I think it'll do well, at least what you've seen on Steam, because it hasn't been a huge success on Steam. It's selling fine. But I think it could do something along those lines. It'll sell, nothing huge, maybe a couple 100,000 units on Xbox, but they have to price it fairly, and they have to provide incentive for Xbox users who have now waited 2 years to play the game, a reason to go in. And if they come in with a budget price, I think that might be enough to entice some of those individuals to go in. I don't know if it would lure me in to double dip. I've played plenty of it on the PS5. But, if you've been on the edge for a long period of time, or you just haven't invested in it on the PS5 at this point, maybe that'll be reason enough, because you could say, let's just entertain $40, both DLCs. Hey, that might be cheaper it would be cheaper than what you would get it on Steam right now. And it might be cheaper than it would be to buy each one standalone on the PS5. So maybe that would entice people, but they definitely have a challenge ahead of them in terms of pricing and marketing.
Right. That I feel like there's also an incentive for Square to get Final Fantasy there, because, to be honest, Final Fantasy is kind of on that decline right now, as we've sort of noted, and really they just need to get that franchise in front of as many new people as possible as well. There's a new generation that's sweeping through, and part of that does include Xbox. So you just got to get that game in front of more people either way, no matter what. So Nate uses the open flame outside with a stick.
One, you can make a delicious meal outdoors with
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 the
a little
grass
bit of a
shoes and
fryer.
everything.
Like what was it? When I was a Boy Scout, we called them a hobo pack. You got your potato, some meat, put some onions and stuff, wrap it in tin foil, throw it next to the fire, wait about 20 minutes, take that thing out, got some good eating.
Okay. Well, that's everything we had here. Thanks everyone for joining us. That's Nate. You can check us out over on the Spawncast Network. I don't know, you guys have Game and Talk coming up next week as well?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So we'll have a Game and Talk next week. We do have also the Spawncast tomorrow that I still need to finish editing after this. So that'll be going up tomorrow afternoon, though. I think we're going to premiere it. People were asking about that. I think we will do that. So there can be like live with a chat and everything. But the audio will also be up around that time too. So you can also just listen to that. Thank you. I was about to go over to the super chats as we finished up here too. King Kupo says, invest in a media server, not streaming services. See, Nate, there you go. You get yourself a NAS at home. You can just put all of your movies and stuff on, and you just access it from whatever device you want.
Well, I mean, I own Blu-ray DVDs and such. I can just pop them in and watch them.
Casual Noob Gamer says, Nate, your voice is ASMR. Thank you for a good night's sleep.
You're welcome. Sleep well.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. This was DirectXbox number 24. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to do it all over again. We'll see you guys then.